bars last night. So, are you ready to introduce your first speaker of the day? As you know, it's a huge stage, so we want loads of people to get involved, especially what KYRYLO is going to be talking about. He's an entrepreneur, business constructor, a huge management company for the last 7 years, trains over 10,000 entrepreneurs a year, a train-the-trainer of all sorts. So, I would like you to be upstanding, please. You know the score. Come on, everybody on your feet. And I want to hear a huge Kiev welcome for KYRYLO KUNYTSKYI!
So, dear friends, good morning. As far as I understand, you are here for a rather long time. During the recent times, I looked at the circumstances and conditions, and I would say that this is just totally friendly and favorable to having this friendly conversation, which would be in the spirit of our today's format of the event. As we were speaking about the bars, I will try to be, well, not that much as a speaker who's trying to train, but just to have a conversation with you in the format of the overall view at what is efficient business and how this business can be constructed. Would you please raise your hand if you are an owner of a business? Okay. And who is a top manager of the business, or just the manager who has several people subordinate in the company, maybe one subordinate or 10 of you? And who has seen me before, anywhere, maybe personally, maybe not, and who of you know who I am? So, for those who see me at the first time, I'll tell you in a nutshell what I'm doing, in fact, in my life, and why I'm here at this stage in front of you having a speech and tell you about anything. Because as it was told, I am KYRYLO KUNYTSKYI. I'm the founder of the company of Business Constructor. Business Constructor is an international company which is working in several countries at the post-Soviet space. In particular, we have the biggest office in Kyiv. In Kyiv, we've got 90+ employees. And what we do here, we are working with the owners of the SMEs, smaller and medium enterprises. But in some occasions, there was a very pleasant surprise that big corporations like Barometer, Planet of Cinema came to us, and even such bigger companies like Alpha Bank, L'Oreal, and Oriflame, having a request for us to help them to construct the business. We are the business technologists. We are specialized in the increase of the efficiency of business. Approximately 40% of my company are rather narrow profile, which are focused on the business analytics, the analysts who really know the management of market, the sales management, creation of business processes, HR functions, and also the selection of staff, adaptation of staff, the development of corporate culture, the management of finance. And now we are actively working with the bigger international companies like the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, Horizon Capital. So we are helping for the businesses to increase the business attractiveness. And now we try to make this shift from the operational model of revenue to the status when the enterprise is considered by the owner as an asset. When we are beginning to speak about capitalization of the business, attraction of the investment, scaling, including the restaurant sphere, we've got lots of clients and customers, in particular Dima Borisov, who is recently finalized his training at ours, and I hope that we really helped his team to develop the whole line of processes. So today we're speaking about the strategy of quick development. So let us instantly have a certain connect with you. This is my Instagram profile, and while I am speaking speaking, you can have an opportunity to connect with me, because further on I'll give you certain speeches and we can just forget to keep in touch after that. And just as a motivation to befriend me, I've just here made a post with the same picture, which is on this slide, where on Wednesday, for those who have several conditions onto this picture, we'll have a giveaway to any ticket of the practice and trainings of business constructor, because sometimes we conduct short educational events. The main work with the owners is a long-term work, because short-term training is an injection. When you have a dose of the information, you got an insight, and sometimes something can be implemented into the process, but the statistics is not that high. But we are working in the long-term perspective with the owners and the teams, but we'll have a giveaway for a ticket for any our live one-day event. So please come to my Instagram, subscribe. I will be happy to be friends with you. Let's come to the topic. Look, I will be speaking about rather simple points. Well, in fact, when I finalize my speech, I am sure that lots of you will have such an impression that, well, yes, it seemed to be very, very simple. There are no magic pills, no secret ingredients. Those are very simple points which I need to implement. The fact is, the question is how you focus upon them and which share of your energy, of your work, in your daily work you allocate for these points. I will begin with several questions. First of all, and this question is for the owners of the businesses, but if you're not an owner of the business, if you are just a real line employee of the company, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have a mentality of the owner. I will tell you that any business is as much successful as many employees perceive the company as their own business, as their own child. It's really important for people to have this proper attitude when even they are hired, for them to consider their company to be their own, because then this company gets the maximum feedback, the maximum attractiveness and involvement of the employees. Lots of people can ask, how can we achieve that? I will tell you about that later in my presentation. We'll speak about that later. So, this is one of the fundamental questions, and the owner should always try to find the answer on this question. So how can the business grow? For any business, it's incredibly important to have a continuous growth process. It's not just a greed or just to get some money or revenue, no. This is just, in fact, the state, the growth of the business is the state when the business is healthy, because business is moved and driven by people who are working within it. Especially now, we need to understand that we are facing the new generation of people. Those are millennials. Lots of the presentees are millennials, as far as I can see the faces. I could see the audience. Lots of the presentees are millennials here. Millennials are the people whose thinking has been shaped in the 2000s. Those are the people who are, according to their way of thinking, are digital already. They don't know the world without internet. They don't remember it without YouTube. They just, for them, it's just their daily routine, I would say. And it's very important to understand that millennials, according to their essence, are motivated by some different points than the people which are of previous generations. They have the lower factor, material factor in their motivation. It doesn't mean they don't need money. Of course, they do need money, and it's very relevant for them to earn, but their approach to the money is easier. They're saying simpler. They say that I'm working in the team of millennials and the young people. I can see their psychology. Their motivation is the following. They know their price. They increase their wages. They know my price is this one. So if I come to the market tomorrow, being a professional and expert, I know what's approximate my wages or remuneration. If he knows the market price, he tries to earn more. But for him, the huge factor of motivation is whether the project is cool, whether it's interesting, an opportunity for the development, opportunity for the growth, the opportunity to overcome their own thresholds and restrictions and to develop within the project, whether the team is cool, whether he's working, whether I'm going to the work and I'm happy to see my colleagues again and we'll get really cool together and having this fun while we are working, or I'm going to the work with some heavy thoughts. Oh my God, I'm seeing these faces again. I'm fed up with them. I'm just sick of them. All of that is playing their own role. And what's really facing, each company facing, if we speak about the bar industry, when you opened the bar, you grew, you achieved some success, and you've got some clientele base. Now it has been developed. What's further on? The guys who are young and driver, who opened this event with you, this bar with you, first, when you've been a startup, they were charged. They were just fired with energy. Not only the money were the main motivation, they got fun out of the project which you are creating. And now it has been launched, a year, 2 or 3 past. And if your business, not only your bar, but the whole business of yours, the whole essence of business does not grow, does not scale, what happens with those younger people? They either are sitting in their comfort zone. Oh, it's okay. I'm okay. It's an autopilot. We are implementing all the processes. It's already set up. I'm just going to my work. I do what I can and I just relax. But not that many people know how to relax. But those are not people which you need. Or they're saying, hey, boss, you see, I'm now achieved my ceiling. I don't see my perspective, what I can get more. But it's important for me to develop. I'm young. During the next 10 years, I'd like to grow, to gain more knowledge, to become a cool professional. I don't see what I can take here. And he leaves from you. He leaves from you. He thanks you for the investment, for the value which you gave him. But in fact, he leaves to a different, a strange business. And then he brings his experience to that business which he gained in your company. So you are turning into a social project which deals with the development of the employees for the labor market. You selected, trained, the person left, and again and again. I can name lots of reasons why your business has to grow. At least when the company is growing, it has the development of the competition capability. When you are one bar in some part of the city or in some region, you are unique. Everybody's coming to you. But as soon as 2 to 3 bars are opening around you, you have this leak of, unfortunately, visitors. They're just leaving. So what do you do? How do you attract our clients, our customers? But even within your structure, you don't have the people responsible for that, because all of the people within the structure are administrators, bar managers, are the people who are dealing with procurement or of goods, of materials, of raw materials, doesn't matter. So in any case, you don't have some centers of responsibility. When I speak about recruiting, that you need to, bring up your HR function, people ask, we don't have money for that. What do we do? So, of course, if the business is small, you're short of money. It's very important for you to look at the criterion of the health of business. That is the continuous growth. That's internal ambition of the owner and the team. Their common ambition is a very important criteria. Further on, you need to find the answer for the question how to grow, because it leads to the question, how much time do you devote to marketing? Marketing is a very important ingredient, and the success of business depends on it. When I speak about ingredients, I mean the effect which is done by growth hormone for the human being. Any human being, after being born, is growing thanks to the growth hormone, and the hormone of growth stimulates the growth of all of the cells in the body. So we know some of the bad cases which can happen when there is a lack of growth hormone. The person does not grow. So the same happens with the business. It does not grow. It doesn't have the growth hormone. And growth hormone is marketing. Businesses are still becoming dwarf businesses, small businesses. They exist year after year, and they're doomed for perishing. We all know lots of cases of successful businesses which being even super successful, super hype projects, in fact, they are closing. Even the Kyiv Perepechka, they were closed, though it was a super project, and at lots of conferences I've seen that there were slides with Kyiv Perepechka. Still, the sense is that any project which does not grow continuously, does not overcome its ceiling, sooner or later it begins to perish, and it happens because of the low concentration of marketing. Let us think what marketing is. What marketing is. A couple of phrases from the audience maybe. What is marketing, guys? Promotion, what else? What else? Advertisement? Okay, market research. Yes, it's very important. What you're mentioning now are components of marketing, but it's important for us to understand that marketing is much broader than just the promotion or just ads. In fact, in its essence, we are dealing with marketing, and we just grasping the market, we're covering the market. Any system systematic businessman creating the company and developing the company is thinking with the category of the market and the share of the market. Who we are, where's my target audience is, and which share of the market we are having at this market. So in fact, if we look at what any market is just the volume of your target audience which you are focusing upon, driven by. If you're working in some region and you're asking yourself, how many clients of mine are present in this region? And you're saying, well, for instance, 1,000 of them. And how many potential clients of my company or my bar are present in this region? And you understand that, for instance, there can be dozens of them or hundreds of thousands. And now we're speaking about the categories of the volume of market and the share of the market. So your task, when we're speaking about the marketing, we're speaking about the whole activities which is created to grasp, to cover, and to increase the share of your company at the market. For that, we're not only dealing with advertisement. Well, because now I will mention the activities categories which concern to marketing, which there should be lots of them. First of all, you should to research your target client, target customer, not only observing him, but having active dialogues with him. Lots of companies don't have a substantial amount of dialogues with their clients. We do not communicate with clients. Well, we do communicate with them, but we're just asking, what do you want to order? Please pay that much and then come again. We will be happy to see you again. But we're not asking the clients, the customers, what they see in ours, what they see in the world, what they could prompt us, recommend us. We are not using, when I say we, I mean the majority, of course. There are always exclusions, but the majority of the companies don't use their clients as their consultants. And this is the first step, to make your own clients your own consultants. Not only to take all of the ideas, of course not, God forbid, they will advise you too much. But first of all, to look at yourselves with the eyes of your customer. This is the customer-driven thinking. This is the first step. Then the understanding of the volume of your target audience, how much of them, the research of the competitors, both personally and with the eyes of your customers. When in the dialogue with the customers, with our competitors, we compare ourselves and we provide certain benchmarking. We create some perfect model of our business. This is the creation, the construction, knowing the competitive analysis, the creation of the product or the suggestion or proposal for the market, which is the best, the most competitive at the market. This is the work on the permanent analysis of the competitors to adjust, because further on, the competitive fight is the endless contest. It's okay if there are lots of sleeping competitors, but if there are aggressive competitors, you begin to fight with them. So you need to improve yourself. You need to think about the channels to attract the clients, to think about the logics of the management and also the churn of the clients. How do we develop the brand? That is all of the market, and this formula characterizes the efficiency of your business and the speed of growth of your business. The problem of lots of owners is that they're totally absorbed by management. They're deepening. Management is, okay, administration, because when you're analyzing your own focus of thinking, if you wake up in the morning having a thought, what's happening in this situation, what's happening with this problem, with the acquirement and procurement of the goods, what's happening with this or that employee, what's happening with my processes, and you're thinking for the whole day, what's with my revenue for this day, you're asking yourselves questions connected with their operational activities, and there is not that much focus of your attention left for the marketing. This is where we get this deficit of marketing. So as I already mentioned, if we want to have a quick and rapid growth, the first principle, which we are now looking at, the ingredient of our growth formula, quick formula, this is to know market perfectly.
Something that I have already mentioned, if this little spot is your existing clients. The clients already buying product from you, and this is your potential. Look at this, they're potential clients. It's very important to be a psychologist who knows their audience deeply. I don't do restaurants. I do the business that is between training, education, and consulting, because we don't do either like pure education or pure consultancy. We create innovative formats that allow the owner both fill in the gaps in competencies where they have it and also introduce this into the company with our help. So I study in depth the psychology of the owners of business, and even those owners who are present here. If you own or if you have founded a company, even during my speech, you can feel that I'm talking about you, that many things that I say right now about your life, about your difficulties, it's about you. I'm saying this because I've studied a lot. I've studied my target audience a lot, and this should be the same. If you do in a restaurant or a bar, it's not like you open and just close your eyes and hope that your clients will come, but you're building the communication that can be regulated, that can be managed, and you're also manipulating the road that your client is going down to. So there is also this sleeping potential. If you're a restaurant, for instance, the yellow clients already use in your restaurant, they eat in your restaurant. The dark blue ones go to other bars and restaurants. And the ones who belong to the sleeping potential, they just prefer not going to restaurants or bars, and you can also find ways to lure them. There are markets where there is almost no sleeping potential, but there are markets where most of the potential is sleeping, so you should awaken it. Especially if you have an innovative business model, you need to develop this culture so that clients will start thinking about consuming your product. And then again, the second principle that is responsible for the growth of your company is the growth formula. Somebody who visited our events or studied with us know that I speak about it a lot, because the growth formula is the answer to the question how the business will grow. And this is the thing that I always say when the owners come to me and ask me a question: how to build an organizational structure, how to choose employees, how to motivate the employees, how to do the accounting, how to do budgeting. I ask them, do you know your growth formula? And I ask them to explain how they plan to double, to scale and become twice as big. If you have like 10 employees now, I would say that 1 year is a limit. If you didn't double in a year, it's a fail. And if you're a big company and if you already have like 500 employees, you need like about 1 year and a half. So you need to think how you will double in a year and a half. So what's your algorithm? And what this algorithm consists of is answering to the questions: where are the clients? Who are the clients? Are there enough clients? Who are the competitors? So what will our unique feature will be? What is our competitive strategy? Why the client chooses our products? How we communicate with the clients? How we create knowledge? How we develop loyalty? How we stimulate the first sale? How can we keep this client coming to us after the first sale? So answering these questions helps you grow. And this is called the business model of a company. It's a very simplified scheme. But this is your target audience, and these are all the clients that could have been buying from you. And this small triangle is your share of the market. And here in lighter color is this sleeping potential. They don't have this culture to consume your product. And the first thing that you're solving is to know your competitors deeply. And then in the eyes of your client, you need to look like a number one. And then you need to understand whom you need to lure, whom you need to attract. And after that, we're building the channels to promote your product. These are very simple things, but there should be many of these simple things. And if you don't pay enough attention to them, it leads to slower growth. I'll give you an example of our own clients. Planeta Kino, Planet of the Cinema. It's a network of the cinema. You might have seen their new format, cinema restaurants. Have you ever been to their cinema restaurants? Several people have already been there. As an advocate for my brand, I'm asking you to try this. They are in Lavina Mall, in River Mall. They have this very new cool format. It's a cinema restaurant, and how do we have a restaurant and a great bar in a cinema? And it has a great bar card. There is a chef. And the menu is also rather good. So why did the cinema decide to go into this market? I participated in this a little bit at the point when they designed this idea. And that's what they were thinking. They look at it and they ask themselves, who are our target audience? We are an entertainment, so our target audience are people who want to spend some free time. So not necessarily the people who want to see a movie. Those are just people who want to spend their free time somehow. So let's study this target audience. How are they thinking? Are they choosing between what things are they choosing between what and what? And by doing these studies, they found out that in the target audience, there is this great division between whether they want to eat or don't want to eat, whether they're hungry or not. And let's say there is a couple and the boyfriend says, let's go to the movies, and the girlfriend says, well, let's go eat because I'm hungry. And then they decide to go to a sushi restaurant. And at this point, a movie theater loses a client, and it becomes a problem when there are many couples like that. So as a result, they came up with this concept of a cinema restaurant when you don't have to choose between eating or between watching a movie. You come in, you sit in this comfortable booth, and you have an iPad, an interactive menu. And if you want, you can have a cocktail. If you want, you can have something to eat. And you just keep sitting and watching a movie while you're eating and drinking. And as a consumer, my wife and I, we often go there. And actually, I perceive a cinema differently now, so I don't go to a normal cinema anymore. And this is how the market evolves. In every market, there is evolution. In any sphere, there are always companies that change the way that things are done. And this is how they attract audience, they attract clients. So ask yourself, are you average? Are you just like everybody else? Or are you changing the market? Because if you're just one of the 1,000 establishments, I'm asking you, what is the thing that you're better with? If you're like you and like 50 other owners, I'm asking you, why should I go to your restaurants? Well, we have good service, we have nice waiters. But if you don't have this unique feature, it's the first problem that you have. And to work on this, it's very important to study the global market, the world market. And it's also very important to travel, to see things, to attract concepts, and to do something that, for example, Dima Dubelets did with the Smartass. If you know this new sports club in Kyiv that combines a sports club with a disco. So you come there, and yes, you do sports, but the sound is great, the light is great. It was also done by a client, Kolya Kablukov. He received a top award in New York recently for lighting. So this sports club, it has great lighting and great sound, and your coach, they are the MC, the DJ, and it turns into a large disco. So people, they come to do boxing, but people are like doing boxing. 20 people are doing boxing simultaneously while they're listening to the music, and there's also a restaurant there, a bar there, so they create some other infrastructure there too. So what's the idea? They're looking at the global market. They brought this idea from London. They looked at London sports clubs, and they saw that in the US, in London, this format is becoming popular, and they were the first to introduce it in Ukraine. So being an innovative is also very important. But you also need to remember that you're working with your client. So it's not enough to create a cool product. I often say there is something similar between marketing and relationship, male and female relationship. No matter how cool is a guy, no matter how ideal he is for his potential bride, if he's not doing anything, he will be less successful with his girlfriend. He needs to do something in their relationship. So the first thing that I say is that you need to create a package for the boy. So the product needs to be cool, it needs to be competitive, it needs to be attractive. And then we need the logic of building a relationship with the client. And here you also need to answer a number of questions that determine the success of your business. First, how do you create knowledge? How do clients find out about you? So after like this one day, today, for example, how many potential clients will find out about our establishment, and how will they find out about it? And are we controlling these channels, or is it just random? Because always between the point where the client falls in love with you and becomes a loyal client and the point of creation of knowledge, you always need some period of time. It's a process that develops in stages. There should be like many contact points there. So it's very important for you to control these points where knowledge is created. It's the first component that largely influences your effectiveness. Second thing is developing loyalty. After you've created knowledge, how do you develop loyalty of your potential clients until you make the sale? How are you leading the clients? What kind of communications you're sending to your client before they make this like first purchase? In which points do you push the client to purchase? It's also a very important factor of your success. And also, how do you manage this loyalty, and how do you manage repeated sales? And it's also a very important part, managing repeated sales, because you need to understand that many companies, especially in the sphere of restaurant and bars, they are guilty of having more and more former clients. So they visit you once, they have some kind of emotion, they have some kind of impression, and they never come back, and you can't even control that. And you're just waiting for it, like a shaman dancing and waiting till the rain comes. They're waiting for our clients to come. So think about it. If every client that comes, at least 20–30% of them become your loyal clients, your permanent clients who come to you, you will start growing much faster. Your restaurant will be filled with people, and you will start looking for ways how to develop your network. And it's the same logic as happens in the relationship between a man and a woman. They meet, and then they date, and then there is a proposal, and then there is a relationship. So it's like 4 stages of developing a relationship with your clients. And I'll give you some practical recommendations about that. The thing that you should be working on a lot when you develop a relationship with your client is LTV. It's a marketing value, and it's the total amount of money that the client leaves at your establishment. You need to understand that in order to identify LTV, you need to identify your client. So if in your establishment there is a tendency that there is large traffic, people come, order something, and then they leave, and you don't identify them. You don't know who this person is. Of course, visually, maybe you recognize them if they are your loyal client, but they're not related to a database. There's no statistics on their orders, and the amount that they spent at your establishment, it's not counted. You don't control this process. Lifetime value is this total amount of sales to one client. And in order to control this, in order to measure this, you need to identify a client. It's a very important part of business. In order to identify a client, it's very important to have controlled communication with your clients. And it starts, a vacuum cleaner is here for a reason, because it starts with constant vacuuming of contact data. Any person that comes to your establishment, they can order just one espresso, but it's very important to receive their contact, because if they order an espresso and then they pay you and they leave, that's it. Many factors, starting from the weather, their mood, where the stars are, his family situation, his workplace, influence if they're coming back or not. And even if they like you very much, there is a risk that for their personal reasons, they will never come back to your establishment. And you can't control that, so this principle is very important from the point of view of marketing. It's one of the primary tasks that you need to solve. A person comes in, so find a way to get my contact data, because contact data gives you many advantages. You can start from direct communication with your client. You can directly send them things on a number of messengers or like through mobile messages. You can also do remarketing on the internet. Your internet marketologist can chase this client all over internet. You've felt this numerous times, I'm sure. If you look like at Adidas sneakers on a website and then you read the news, see the weather, but these Adidas sneakers, they keep chasing you through advertising like all over the internet. This is called remarketing. If you have a database of telephones or of emails of your clients, your marketologist can import them into the program, and they can chase them all over the internet. But most importantly, you can segment your clients by importance, by amount of sales, by their status, whether they're active or not active. Planeta Kino does this beautifully. They have only recently started developing the brand. You can see like they are advertising all over Kyiv. They started communicating. With their owner, I used to talk, but he told me that they were slow in the brand, that they can keep the audience, but they don't do brand development very well. But what they do to retain a client, a person comes in, those who are their clients, you can come in and you ask for a popcorn, and what they are asking you in return, they're always asking you for a phone number. So you're asked, like, do you have our app? Are you in the loyalty program? I don't have an app, you say. And if you do, they will identify you by the app. But if you don't, they're asking you for a phone number. And do you think how many people give their phone number? It's 80%. How could it be 80%? But yes, indeed, 80% of people do give their phone number. When just the cashier at the cash desk asks them for it, even without giving any reason why they need that. And if you tie a discount system to that, if a person comes in and orders this cup of espresso and you ask them, are you part of our loyalty program? And you tell them, like, if you give us our phone number, you'll have a 5% discount. And then you'll have some kind of, you can be creative here. There are no like ready solutions in marketing. The main business process in marketing is you have an idea and then you check it if it works, and then again you have a new idea and then you check if it works, and this is how it moves on. But client loyalties, it's not about discount cards that you've issued. It's not about like if you buy for 20,000 hryvnia with us, we'll give you some kind of a discount. It's about chasing clients. It's about identifying clients. With Planeta Kino, for example, if it's 3 months, they identify a client as loyal one, as a permanent client. And if it's been over 3 months, they think that they've lost the client, so they communicate with them. They start like, knocking on their door, giving them tickets as gifts, giving them cocktails as gifts. And this is how they're trying to get their client back. But you need to create a wow effect for your client. When you're building this cool relationship with your client, it's very important to study your target audience and to know if you are cool for your client, if you are providing this wow effect that your target audience will be excited about. Again, metrics. I will not go very deep into the metrics right now. I'll just tell you one thing, because without it, it's going to be very difficult to grow. You control what you've measured. There is this idea of the financial model of business. Financial model is accountability. I'm speaking to owners. Of course, if you're a bar manager or a bartender, it's not your responsibility. But if you're the owner of the business, it's like learning to drive. It's like learning to ride a bike or to speak English. It's like basic life skills, or like know to use like Word or Excel. You need to know 3 things: balance.
Even if you don't measure it balance, then P&L. Those are the profit and loss statement, and of course the cash flow. Those are the reports on the cash flows management. And those are 3 reports you need to get to know with that, to manage with that, to cope with that. And there are not years are passed for that. There are several weeks only for that. This is just an elementary thing. You need to understand the maths only at the basics, and that's it. But this is for the accounting. Then you need to create forecast, because all of your marketing hypotheses, like the traffic, average check, then the share of retention rate, and so on. And in fact, our current indicators, how we plan to impact, then sales volume, then the prime cost, the food cost, whatever you form it out of, the marginal revenue, the total expenses, the net revenue. All the marketing hypotheses are transforming into the quantitative forecasts, and you model that beforehand. So it's very important to have lots of that scrupulous analysis. Before you launch any activities, before you hire any employees, you create the financial models beforehand. Who does that? Your financier. And if you tell me, where can I take a financier? I don't have money for that. There is the question, why don't you grow? That means that you're stuck, you don't scale. And if you don't scale, well, not because you don't know how. There are always algorithms how to scale, because we are in the comfort zone, and whatever we have now, it's okay already. We earn a little bit, and that's enough. But when I tell you, take a marketologist, take a specialist, no, I don't have money for CRM systems, of course. So this is what the lack of growth brings to. So you manage what you measure. It's really important. Then the organizational structure. Look, this is the widely spread disease of all the companies. Would you raise your hands if you have an understandable organizational structure in your company? All the functions appointed, the understanding who is the subordinate. Well, not that many people know that from the audience, and this is the problem, because without the organizational structure, the people in the structure in the company are becoming hedgehogs in the fogs. They are sitting and they don't understand what's going on. I am sitting and I know my function, my role, and that's it. But there are some people rushing around me. It's not my business what they do. I've got my own tasks, I've got my function, and that's what I perform. We don't speak about any engagement, and sometimes the owner of the business is coming and telling, hey, work better, and the employees begin to try to demonstrate attempts to show the work, motivating that not to be punished, not to be beaten, just to get the wages they wanted to get, and to get Friday as soon as possible. Having this motivation, it's not that easy to get engagement. So if you want the team to be involved, to be engaged, create clarity, transparency of the organizational structure. And for that, it's important to exclude, it shouldn't just be written, you need to exclude hybrid character. Hybrid character is the situation when the same person is responsible a bit for sales, a bit for marketing, a bit for finances, a bit for logistics, a bit for the procurement, and the Wi-Fi, by the way. So when there are lots of people like that, you just bringing up unique people who are irreplaceable. I would say the multifunctional good guys, and that's it. You look at them and you want to tell them, thank you, what you're doing for our company. We wouldn't cope with that without you. But why do you, unfortunately, have lots of problems in your work? Well, because he doesn't have a special focus. Any person without a focus will have a decrease of efficiency. He doesn't have a focus, and even if he is beginning to pretend he's inadequate or becoming crazy, we cannot even fire him, because the owner is looking at him and saying, well, I'm looking at him and I don't know what he's doing in the company. How can I replace him? I am depending on him. And he does not know what he's doing, in fact, in the company. Because part of his tasks as the generator of just figures, I don't know what's the name of the vacancy if I replace him. He's the management of everything. And if there are lots of multifunctional people like that, and there are lots of them, and they are all intertwined, and the owner decided to be interwoven into those processes, and you tell to the owner, let's make an order, he's looking at us and saying, guys, I don't know, somehow it's working, and thanks God it's working. Let's not touch it, because I'm afraid it will be ruined. I don't know how it was launched, so I was just lucky. But in fact, there shouldn't be luck in this process. So hybrid character shouldn't be allowed, and we should remember that this kind of a diagram should exist. Well, of course it can be different. Any bar, any event, any institution can be different with its structure. It's a very debatable question, what should be the structure should look like, and so on and so forth. But the most important thing for every person to understand his or her place in the company, to understand the expected results, the accountability, the logics of interaction with other employees, it's incredibly important. Very often we can see that if we are so small now, there are only 5 of us, what structure could it be? Still draw the structure, create the temporary replacement of the positions. For instance, if you don't have an acquirer, right, the procurer, and the administrator deals with the procurement of the goods, okay, but still for the future, for the growth, you understand that you will have to hire a special person. You just create this cube at the diagram. When I created Business Constructor, at the moment when I had the first employee coming to work, I showed her the structure for 20 people. Because your aim, a very important skill to project the growth of your business for the future, to show how we're growing and how we look like tomorrow. And it also becomes a motivational factor for the people because they understand, cool, I'm in the rocket and it will be flying off. It will develop. And everything depends on my efforts, depends where I am in this structure tomorrow. It's a very important component, the availability of order in the organizational structure. Why do you need organizational structure? Because it doesn't only define the functions, you are also creating and giving yourself an opportunity to give a structured feedback from the employees. For each of the employees, you have an expected result of the work, and at any moment of the time, you can come up to the employee and having a kind of a tete-a-tete interview or conversation, you can show, look, this is the place. According to the 1 to 10 scale, you have 25 points of expected outcomes of your work we're expecting from you, so let us now assess you, or you can assess yourself, and then we'll sit together and we'll discuss that. So thus, you can understand where he has certain gaps, and we can show the feedback and to see whether he or she is correspondent or not to the position, and form an individual development plan. And it's a very important part of the work, because if you don't speak with your people about their development in the structured way, not in the mode, hey, work better, why are you working that not that well, but when we understood where the gap is and which parameters has the lack of competence, then we together begin to discuss and to think how we can develop this competence, having a very high level for the whole team. When we create the team, the approach is very simple. First of all, your company should have a cool work process. Just ask yourself, if you're an owner, ask yourself, if you'd be a very good expert, would you come and to the company? Would you like to work at your own company? It's a very useful question. Whether it's cool to work at your company, because it should be cool to work at your company. It should be, your company should be a magnet for the people who would like to get to your company, because it's cool to stay at your place. But it doesn't mean that they are relaxed there. It is cool, it's comfortable. You have just incredible leaders and bosses and superiors, nice corporate culture, cool ideas and projects and products, but still you are requiring, crazily requiring. And when I'm asked how I can create a strong team, is the high speed of firing people who are not correspondent. As soon as people, your employees, unfortunately, having lack of development, and you're telling them you shouldn't do that, but he's still staying in the company, you are decreasing the level, the internal standard of the whole team. I will name you a very simple example. Look, when you're coming to the route, you came to some wonderful dinner, you have a black tie dress code, this is high society and so on, and you're not coming that often to such events. You were prepared, you dressed up, so that's why you have a nice evening. You come into an expensive restaurant, very cool serving. The waiters are really cool. You're sitting down at the table, and first you're trying to be correspondent to the rules of the etiquette, because this is a kind of an highbrow dinner. You're thinking which fork to take to eat fish or anything. You'd like to have good manners, but then you can see that there are more people at your table who are just taking a chicken, they're just taking it with their bare hands, and they even try to dry their hands with their own jacket. Then what do you think? Oh, it was too much from me. I should be simpler. All of that is formality. So within yourself, you decrease your own standards. Well, maybe you won't dry your hands with your jacket, but still you will decrease the standard. So any person who is unfortunately decreasing the corporate culture, who's not efficient enough and still staying in the company, automatically decreases the standard by his own actions. That is why you must have the high speed of firing. And if the person is not correspondent to the position, don't be emotional, don't shriek, but tell, these are the expected results, and you're not correspondent to some of the criteria. I won't be ready to work on with you. Tell me, is it interesting for you to work in my company? Because I considered what was going on at your place. I'm not ready. Is it interesting for you? And if you're saying, no, it's not interesting, okay, thank you and bye. But if you're saying, well, yes, it is interesting, I'd like to keep this position, okay, at least he has an intent, and then let us take a short period of a fortnight, of 2 weeks, during which we are expecting for certain results which should be changed. We are instantly having a period appointed, and at the certain date we are meeting again. If nothing changed, we will instantly have a deal now. At this date, we are just shaking hands, thanking each other for the cooperation, and saying goodbye. This should be a high speed of firing. And if people go on to work in your company, they're not efficient, you're decreasing the level of requirements for your own people. And this is demolishing the corporate culture. But how can you replace them? With whom can you replace them? This is the next ingredient in this recipe. The logic is the following. If you're working in different bars, you know what is the ventilation system. So for the inflow and outflow air system, you need the inflow and the outflow. But if the outflow is broken, the inflow won't help you because you need both. So this is the outflow. If you need to have a healthy team, you should totally filter the inefficient people, especially if the staff is 50 to 100 people. Statistically, you'll always have inefficient people. You cannot always achieve good people, so you are pushing them out. This is the outflow, but you need the inflow. This is the isolated function of recruiting. There is a huge mistake which is allowed by the institutions and organizations, because of which you can just get a very weak team, and in a year or two you can lose your faith in people and your opportunity, your capability to create a healthy business. If you give the bar managers the task to hire bartenders, if the administrator of the halls hires waiters, this is the guaranteed way to have a weaker team, a weak inflow of people than you could have had. Because at the labor market in Ukraine, and not only in Ukraine, because we are working in the CIS countries and in Europe and the US, I'd like to tell you that Ukraine is just a wonderful market of labor, and people. It has cool people. Who has at least one just really cool person you'd like to pray for, and for everybody to be like that? Do you have such people in your team? You see, there are such people. People are raising hands. They exist. But this is only a small share, a little share. And the main function, the main business process of your company is the high speed of search of those people. If it is done by managers, it's the end. They don't have time for that. They don't have skills for that. They tell anyone, if someone came, this was bad, the second was bad, and if they look at the third, okay, he was much better, oh my god, the fourth is even worse, let's take the third one, god, we need to fill up the vacancy, the seventh came, he's not that good, but still, let's take him, we can replace him, moreover, there are 20 of them working already, let him work as well. So we can have this kind of a dream team. This is the system of selection of people, of hiring people is failing, and everything is suffering because of that. A recruiter should be in your staff. I'm standing for that, because you cannot deal differently. The person who would be focused, hiring people, finding people, searching for people. In our Kyiv's office, of 90 people, 4 of them are recruiters. This is a non-stop search, and indeed brings results, brings outcomes. I can tell you as an owner of the company, and it doesn't mean that you don't fire, but this is the very important to have a very high level of outflow. That is why the isolation of recruiting function, and in the scale, when you're scaling and expanding, you need to develop an HR function. Look, So to manage the company of 100, 150 people is much easier and cooler than to manage the company of 10, 15 people. If you're a micro company, it's your interest to grow, because while you're smaller, you cannot afford yourself lots of functions. It's the same when you ride a bike and you don't have a conditioner, you don't have music, you don't have anything. You just have the steering wheel and maybe the ring, and that's it. But when you're sitting at the bigger car, a vehicle, they have a more complicated equipment. You have a conditioner and the climate control, and the seating is very convenient how it's moving, and then the system of cruise control, and the same is happening in the company. As soon as you begin to expand, you can create the isolating functions which increase the comfort of the business management and, as a consequence, the efficiency of the business. So HR function of 30 to 40 people is a very relevant position in the company. HRs and recruiters don't mix them up. Recruiters are searching for people. HR is the management of the company. This is the right hand of the owner responsible for their efficiency. HR function is responsible. Even if you don't have it, if you have only 10 people in your company, still HR function should be there. You're just drawing it yourself. So you need a high quality team. You're pushing out the irrelevant people. You're selecting the stuff when the manager is taking part, approving the conditions and technologies of testing of the people and taking part in the exit, taking the consent of the final candidates. Then the input adaptation, the system of input and introduction training. What would happen if the people in the world, as soon as they are 18 years old, they would have a driver's license? You're 18 years old already, so there is a taxi driver, he'll train you how to drive. What will happen at the roads? It already has some mess on the roads, but still. The majority of people know how to drive because they had a theoretical part of training. They were studying the rules, the traffic rules, and then they passed the test, the exam. And if I don't pass the exam, I don't have access to have a driver's license. So if the people are coming to your company and you tell this one will train you, this is the end, this is the failure. And if this person who will be the trainer has found this person, this is a total failure, because you will have a so-so selected person who doesn't know how to be trained, and people don't want to be trained, honestly speaking, and you're giving this person to the one who doesn't know how to train. In fact, they don't know how to share experience, and then we are surprised why people have 4 months of some trying to be aware what to do here, and then in 4 months, when we understand that this is the problematic person who is stealing even, we don't know what to do, but let him work because he's trained. Where is the guarantee that the next one won't be a thief? So 20 of those are working like that, let him be. This is the kind of a dream team. So we have an input adaptation with attestation. The regulation of the functions of the employees without the regulation, with the exact result for each employee, to give an opportunity of the feedback, the system of the material motivation, the KPI indicators, which is connected to the results of the work of each employee. When the employee is working, the direct influence onto the remuneration system, the management of the moral climate. Depending on the mood of your people, we have the efficiency or inefficiency of the work of your company. Emotion is the fuel for the action. If you don't manage the emotional state of the employees, if you just have this attitude to the people, this is your work, do it, and you don't try to follow what's the mood, systematic way of the mood of the people, you're losing a lot. If you buy a Ferrari and you just put A76 fuel to Ferrari, it won't drive well, though it's Ferrari. The same will happen with the demotivated people if they just hate the job. And this is also the part of an HR function. You should take care, you should scan the emotional state of the people and to manage this moral climate. The work on the assessment, regular assessment, and the individual plans of development of the staff. Each person in his function must have an aims and targets connected with the work, with his or her achievements of the working outcomes, and the aims connected with the personal development, where I'm weak, which competences are weak, and what I need to do to develop them. The development of the managers. This was the word connected that the vast majority of the managers have never been trained to manage other people. If you take a person for work with so-called managerial experience, just think who trained him to manage other people. Because just to be a good bartender doesn't mean that if he's promoted, he becomes a nice manager. If you're a good chief, it doesn't mean that tomorrow you can become a good manager. This is a separate zone of of competence, and typical management is self-trained. And as people don't have the skills of management, the company, you're losing the huge sums of money because you entrust your people, your remuneration fund of this manager, and they are trying to do as much as they can, but they try to motivate, to appoint targets, and it's okay if he doesn't kill them off, in fact, in secret from you, and if he doesn't use dictatorship and doesn't make self-confident and trying to be selfish. Situations can be different. So there should be an internal system of the development of managers. Some of the events on the internal development of managers is one more important component.
Also developing corporate culture. You know, corporate culture is not corporate parties. Because one female owner told me, well, I'm good with corporate culture. We have a corporate party every month, but it's not about that. It's not about drinking together. And it's also not about mottos that you put on the walls. Professionalism is everything for us. The team is the basis of our success. It's not about that. None of this works. Corporate culture is about this kind of night that I earlier told you about. You can notice, even if you look at yourself, if you're in the new group, in the new community where you haven't been before, the first thing that you do subconsciously, that you scan people and their models of behavior. If you're at the business summit where everybody communicates to each other at a very high level, in a very business mood, you automatically try to fit in to correspond to those standards. And if you are at an informal party, you behave absolutely differently, and you try to adapt to the corporate culture that you see. So it can be disseminated, it can be spread, and it also can become a habit. And any employee who comes into your company, they first hear what you tell them about the rules and the principles of working in the company, and the second thing they do, they're looking at what the other employees are doing, and it becomes their training, because you tell them about the bright future, but then they go to have a smoke with their employees, and they do this like quick adaptation for him, quick training, and how things work here, and how you should, what attitude you should have to everything here. And even if they don't tell it with words, they show it by what they're doing. So building corporate culture, it starts with the dialogue with the team about where we're going. As a company, what's our future going to be like? Why we want to be like that? And what should each of us do? What should each of us be like in order for us as a company to reach that success? So if a person is not aware enough, if they're not fitting into a culture, if they're just like going out, you know, after the dialogue that you have, and they say the barometer is shit, let's like wait three days, and you know, we shouldn't be doing anything differently after that. But so if there's people that are undermining your corporate culture, just say goodbye to them, just let them go. It's very important, because if you have weak corporate culture, you need to have a lot of administrative measures. You need to find them. You need to have words for them, so that, you know, if this person should be going like very, very straight with all those limitations that you built for them. But in fact, it's much better to have an aware team of people who make their own decisions and who want to attain this result that is expected from them. And the final principle of the systematic business, it's a little bit not typical for most, if we talk about management culture, but I think that it's very important. Business needs to be protected from its owner. A business owner is a great guy. They made a great contribution. They launched a company. It's very important. It's very valuable. It's very cool that the business owner did it. But after some period of time, the business owner, if the company grows, they turn into this monkey with a grenade. Because for once, it is a person, it's the only person in the company who doesn't have anyone above them. So they do what they want. Second thing, it's a very creative person. A typical businessman, it's okay for them to be very creative. So today they play one game, and then tomorrow they see another game, and they go play this another game. So I've been building this pyramid, but then I saw a new pyramid, and I like blocks. I take blocks from this first pyramid, and they're trying to balance this. So it's a person who comes to the conference such as today, and they come on Monday and tell their managers, well, we've been doing everything wrong. I was told not to work with you. I was told to fire people like you, and you too, please do the work of that guy who I just fired. And of course, these managers, they're wondering, like, what kind of conference did he go to? And then 3 days after they just stop doing that and they just do things the way they did them before. So owners, they're usually very emotional. So one day they think that we're building this new Facebook, and very soon they can also get depressed and think that they need to emigrate from the country. So this person is always between good and bad, and also they don't like operational work. Doing the same thing, doing the same meeting with the same written, it's complicated. It's hard for an owner because they are a good owner. Steve Jobs is an owner like that. Elon Musk is an owner like that. Mark Zuckerberg also. All leading businessmen that you've studied, you can notice that they're crazy and they are fired from their own companies. I'm not saying that you should hire your owner, fire your owner, but like there's a very great job title, operational director, and it's very important to separate this function of operational management and the visionary function. How you solve it, there can be different options. It depends on very different factors, but how you solve this issue is on you, but you need to do this. If you're the owners and you want the company to grow successfully, to develop, please give them this general direction of movement, but please surround yourself with administrative managers and agree with them that if you're doing something very wrong, if you're changing the direction very rapidly, that they can stop you. Because if the owner falls into their own weaknesses, they are destroying their own business from time to time. So it's just a characteristic of a person who is a business owner. So to sum up what I've told you today, high concentration of marketing in your priorities, your priorities as an owner of the business. It's very important that a lot of marketing is broadcasted into the team. Marketing is looking outside, management is looking inside. When you're doing something inside, it's management. When you're outside, you're thinking about the brand, the clients, the market, the possibilities. So for the owner, marketing should be important. The second thing is knowing your growth formula. So developing in a competitive business model, who is my target audience? Are they big enough? What is my share in the market? Who are my competitors? How different am I from my competitors? Do I have a competitiveness strategy? Why should the clients come to me? So the effective system of attracting and retaining clients. You need to have algorithms to attract clients and to retain them. We have talked about it in detail today. It's very important to retain clients. With us, we identify the clients and we build in the controlled communication with them. Then you can control with what you measure. So metrics is very important. And please pay special attention to the financial model, a model in future from the financial point of view, organizational structure, this bone structure that is very important to manage anything at all. If you even have a small company, you need to do this. And firing the employees who don't fit very quickly, and also isolate recruiting. So this metaphor of air, we send away back air and we send in good air to the room. That's what we're doing. If you're a micro company, you need to grow fast. As soon as you start growing, you have more employees. And if you have like 50, 100 employees, you need to have at least 10% of people who go from the company and who come into the company. It's impossible, statistically impossible, if you have 100 people that every person is good. It's a very great exception if like that. So you'll always have people who don't fit in. And of course, you do this isolated recruiting for that. Developing HR function, this is a very important function that we also talked about today. And the quality process of operational management. Please make the owner this businessman who is surrounded by administrators. So this is the general model. If we're talking about restaurants and bars today, right? So this is your cocktail, your recipe for quick growth of the company. So I will finish my presentation at this. I'll be happy to be useful for you in any formats. Both me and my team, we can help you in any way that we can. And the small bonus today my team and I, we've decided to provide the audience 50% discount for all products of Business Constructed. This is a simple link. Please, at this link, you can register by the end of today, and you will immediately have a discount of 50% that will be valid for a month starting today. So if you want to work with us, this is a good entrance point for you. And it is also about building controlled communication. You can try for yourself how we are doing it. You can see the results of our activities and the number of clients and who our clients are. We can say that we are pretty good at it. I'll be very glad to be of use for you. I hope this presentation was useful. Thank you very much.